Sometimes it's the very people who no one imagines anything of who do the things that no one can imagine.
Humanity does this to us.
Not if we show them a better path.
Come with me, and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. Take a look, and you'll see into your imagination.
We have to have the ontological wonder towards the ground of meaning.
Are some of the physicists, Kurt's point, are they concluding that space-time is not real, or that it's emergent from this more fundamental ontology? Like, those are two different claims, right? To claim that everything above a fundamental level is not real is a kind of reductionism that I've already argued I find very problematic. I wasn't clear which one you're saying. Space-time is doomed as a fundamental, or space-time is doomed as an entity. Those aren't the same claims. So what are they saying?
Yeah, my take on it is that, I think that, we could talk to the physicists like Nima or Connie Hebed and so forth, but my take is that when he says space-time is doomed, he's saying that it's not fundamental.
Right.
He may not want to worry about deeper existential notions. He's saying if you're a physicist and that was the framework in which you're doing all your work, that's no longer the framework. You have to show that there's a deeper framework, and that that space-time comes out as a projection of a much richer and deeper framework. Now, whether he says that means the space-time is not real, I don't know if you'd even be interested in that question. I'm just not sure.
Right. Because for me, I mean, the idea that space-time might be projected from something that is not space-timey, I mean, that's, and this is not dismissive. That's a perennial idea. I mean, and you mentioned it. It's a classic Platonic idea that even to make inferences that generalize, we need non-spatial temporal relations. We need eternal relations. I mean, Berman makes this argument. This is why nominalism is doomed. So, and pardon me, because it sounds like these things you're describing them geometrically. So, given that geometric figures are spatial, does that mean that there's some sense in which the language is ultimately conceived as being imaginal or metaphorical about this? Because, you're talking about faces and you're using space-time language. And Don, I'm not trying to pin you down like a jiu-jitsu move, but I'm wanting to get people's attitude here. Given that they're using, geometry as a fundamental thing, and Plato ran into a similar kind of thing. That's why I'm asking this question. What is it that, what do they take their theoretical representations to be?
Right. So space-time itself is just another piece of geometry, right?
Yeah.
So you have the mathematics of polytopes or geometries more generally, and space-time and the Poincare group, and symmetries on space-time and so forth is just one out of countless different kinds of geometries. Most of us, our imaginations are so tied to space-time, it's hard for us to think outside of it. But the amplitude, for example, itself, it could have trillions of dimensions. So so these are geometric objects. They're not objects in a physical sense of some object in space-time. They're mathematical objects, and in the same sense that physicists view space-time itself as being described by a mathematical object, say, the symmetries of the Poincare group and so forth. So it's that sense that these are geometric objects. But I've had this question before, because people have asked me, I gave a talk at Stanford a few weeks ago on this, and someone said, well, so where are these objects? Are they like at the Planck scale, or are they stuck inside space-time somewhere? Where are they? Because if there's a geometric object, we think it has to be somewhere in space. And this is the leap you have to make. No, space-time itself is just one fairly trivial geometric object. And these objects are, beyond, they transcend space-time, and they project to space-time. My own view is that space-time is, from an evolutionary point of view, and I'd love to have a chance to talk about evolution with John in a minute. Yeah. But from an evolutionary view, I think that space-time is just a virtual reality headset that we've evolved, and it's not a very good one. We have a cheap model. It only has 4, maybe 11 dimensions on the super, and it stops at 10 to the minus 33 centimeters. It's very shallow. If it was 10 to the minus 33 trillion centimeters, I might be impressed, but 10 to the minus 33. So I feel like we got cheated. We got a really cheap user interface, and it's shallow. And I can't even imagine, a 5-dimensional object. And for a lot of work I want to do, I would be very, very helpful to imagine a 5-dimensional object. And my little interface doesn't let me do that. So I have to actually then painfully scratch down mathematics. And Chetan, to do this little thing, he spent weeks and weeks, because we can't visualize, this Markov polytope of 3 agents. We can't visualize it. We can't see its structure. We have to then painfully, like filling the different parts of the elephant, here's the tail, here's the leg, and put together what this polytope is and prove what it is. So space and time isn't the fundamental reality. It's a fairly low level and cheap and shallow interface that we're stuck with. And I hope to transcend it.
So what is it you think about us that gives us epistemic access to a non-phenomenological reality?
So the bigger question for me is, if I am and you are this unlimited intelligence that transcends concepts, why does that unlimited intelligence engage in using concepts? For me, that's the big question.
This is first of all, you're in good company. This is an ancient problem. This is why does the one become many?
Yes, right.
This is why does the one become many, and how could the one become many if the one is one?
Right.
And you're in that deep problem. So I don't want to saddle you with that and say you have to solve that because right, because that's unfair. But what I'm trying to get at is really I'm trying to get clear of your model. So we have some epistemic access, fallible as it is, but that's not. I'm not claiming infallibility. I'm hearing though that there's still preferential. The conceptual access gives us our conceptual abilities give us preferential access to reality over our perceptual abilities. I thought I heard you say something like that. So if I have to choose between a percept and a conceptual analysis, I should give priority to the conceptual analysis. Or did I mishear you?
Well, it's close. What I said is within the logical framework of evolutionary theory, that's the case.
Right.
I'm not saying that I believe, I'm just saying that so when Plantinga says, let's assume for sake of argument, evolution of natural selection, then you get that all cognitive capacities are not reliable. And I'm just saying, no, you don't. You get that perceptual capacities are not reliable, but you do not get that mathematical so that's just an argument about the specifics of evolution. But I think I take your question as a broader one than that.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. So I want to distinguish my argument on evolution from the broader question. Evolution, if you ask what evolution says, it says clearly our perceptions are not true. It doesn't say clearly that our logic and math are not true. It doesn't say that clearly at all. Okay. But I take it that from this broader point of view, evolution by natural selection aside, and now going beyond any, even my own conscious agent mathematics framework, my own view is that here I am talking using concepts, and I know that every concept that I'm speaking right now and every mathematical thought that I'm having is not it. And it's not even scratching the surface of the reality. All I can do is point to that fact. And yet I do find myself, because I'm talking with you and also talking to myself and trying to understand things, sort of forced to take this unlimited intelligence and compress it down to this almost zero bandwidth thing that we call thought and logic and concepts, and which that points to, again, this infinite. So it's an infinite to one or infinite to small thing and back out to the infinite. And so the question, it comes down to, why is there something rather than just presence without any content? Why is there content?
There's that, and that goes back to a question about what experience means in your model.
Right.
Because what does experience mean? given the way you're talking. But I want to slow down and zero in on this. So I worry, and I'm pretty sure I must be wrong. I worry that there's an implicit thing that unless you have all knowledge, you have no knowledge, or unless you have all truth, you have no truth. Here, the idea, like I agree with you, like, and I've made this argument multiple times. I made it to Kurt that the vast amount of information, we have to subtend it. That's what relevance realization is, etc. I couldn't solve any of my problems if I had to try and trace out all the probabilistic relationships to all the other entities in the universe. Blah 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 blah. I won't repeat all of those arguments. I agree with that, but I mean, I worry about things like Meno's paradox and Sorites' argument, right? Which says there has to be partial knowledge that nevertheless grasps the truth. So why couldn't somebody say to you, yeah, my perceptual knowledge is very partial, but that doesn't equate logically with it being false. It's just partial, because partial truth has to be a thing, or you're caught in Meno's paradox, you're caught in Sorites' arguments, and then you end up with absolute skepticism. And I can tell you're not an absolute skeptic, so I'm not going to foist that on you. But you see the point I'm making? Partial knowledge doesn't mean false just because it's partial. That there has to be something more.
If you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Anything you want to do it. Want to change the world, there's nothing to it.
Hurry up, Violet.